Coxter Groups, Lecture 10, Subword property. Let us recall the definition of the Breuer order. Let Ws be a Coxeter system, and let T be the set of all reflections in W. So these are conjugates to elements in S. Let L be the length function with respect to S. So S is a set of generators. Each element can be written as a product of generators, and the length of an element is the length of the minimal product of generating elements, such that we can write this element in W as that product of generating elements. The Breuer order on W is defined as a transitive closure of the relation x arrow y, where this means that there exists a reflection T such that y is equal to x times t, and the length of y is strictly greater than the length of x. So here there is no left-right asymmetry. The same relation x arrow y can be equivalently described as that there exists a reflection, possibly different reflection, t, such that y is equal to t times x, and L of y is greater than L of x. Now let's talk about subwords. So let Ws be a Coxeter system, and consider some word in the alphabet S. So the word is S1, S2, and so on, Sk. We interpret this word as a product of the corresponding elements in S. So each word can be associated with an element in W, but each element in W can be represented by many different words. So definition, a subword of this word S1, S2, and so on, Sk, is an expression Si1, Si2, and so on, Sim, where I1 is greater than or equal to 1, I2 is greater than I1, and so on, and Im is greater than Im minus 1, and is itself less than or equal to k. So we just take the word S1, S2, Sk and delete some letters in it. What remains is a subword. So here is an important lemma. Let U and W be two different elements in W. Assume that we have a reduced word which expresses W. So W is equal to S1, S2, and so on, Sk, and this is a reduced expression. And let us assume that some reduced expression of U is a subword of this reduced expression of W. Then there exists an element V in W with the following properties. First, V is Breuer greater than U. Second, the length of V is the length of U plus 1. And 3, some reduced expression of V is a subword of the reduced expression of W, which we have chosen. Proof. So let us choose a reduced expression for U, which is a subword of S1, S2, and so on, Sk, which is obtained by deleting the letters Sj1, Sj2, and so on, Sjp, in such a way that Jp is minimal possible. So we have our S1, S2, Sk, we delete some letters, and the rightmost deleted letter is the minimal possible. Consider the reflection Sk, Sk minus 1, and so on, all the way down to Sjp, that's our rightmost deleted letter, and then we go back, Sjp plus 1, and so on, Sk. We denote this reflection by T. Then U times T is obtained from U by putting the letter Sjp back, and this is clearly a subword of S1, S2, and so on, Sk. And also, since we put one letter back, we have that the length of Ut is at most length of U plus 1. There is no guarantee that the obtained expression is reduced. Therefore, we can only increase the length by 1, or we can maybe decrease it. If we could prove that our Ut is Breuer greater than U, this would immediately imply that the length of Ut is the length of U plus 1, and then if we take V to be this element Ut, it clearly satisfies all our conditions 1, 2, and 3, and this completes the proof. So in the rest of the proof, we will prove that Ut is Breuer greater than U. We will prove this by contradiction, so assume that Ut is Breuer smaller than U, which is more or less equivalent to assuming that the length of ut is strictly smaller than the length of u. So let us recall that we have a reduced expression for u, which obtained from the reduced expression for w by removing sj1 and so on as jp. Since we have assumed that ut is Bria smaller than u, we can use the strong exchange property to conclude that t has one of the following two possible forms. So either t is sk minus 1 and so on all the way down to sq, and then all the way up to sk, where q is strictly bigger than jp. So we remove from our expression of u some letter sq, which is to the right of sjp, or t is equal to sk and so on, then sjp removed, and so on, some sjr removed, and so on, and then sq, and then we go back with removed letters as well. And now here q is strictly smaller than jp, but is not equal to any jh, any letter which we removed from w to get u. So in the first case, we can compute that w, which is equal to wt squared, can be written as follows. So we take s1, s2, and so on as k, that's an expression for w. Then we have the expression for t, which is sk and so on, all the way down to sjp, and then all the way up to sk. And then we have the new expression, sk all the way down to sq and all the way up to sk. We remove sjp and sq, and in this way we get a shorter expression for w. But this of course contradicts our assumption that the original expression for w was reduced. So this cannot happen. In the second case, we look at the expression for u. So u is equal to u times t squared, and we can write it as our original expression for u, so that's s1 and so on as k, with sj1 and so on sjp removed. Then we have our new expression for t, when we start from sk, go down to sq, forgetting the removed letters, and go back to sk. And then we have our older expression for t, which is from sk to sjp, and then back to sk. How it affects the expression of u? It removes sq, and it puts sjp back. So we get a new expression for u, and since our expression for u was reduced, so we take one letter out and we put one letter back, this should be a reduced expression, but now the rightmost removed letter is not sjp, but something to the left of it, because we have put sjp back. But this contradicts our assumption that jp was minimal. Our reduced expression for u was not arbitrary, it was chosen so that the rightmost removed letter is the minimal possible. And here we see that we can manipulate it to get a reduced expression where the rightmost removed letter is strictly to the left. So this obtained contradiction completes the proof. Now we can formulate the main result for today, that's a subword property, so theorem. Let w be an element in w, and let's take a reduced expression for w, s1, s2, and so on as k. Then, for an element u in w, we have that u is Bria less than or equal to w, if and only if u has a reduced expression that is a subword of s1, s2, and so on as k. Let's prove the implication from left to right. So assume that u is strictly smaller than w in the Bria order. Then the Bria order is a transitive closure of the arrow relation. Then we can write that u, arrow x1, arrow x2, and so on, arrow xm, and xn is equal to w for some x1 and so on, xm in w, and those arrows are labeled by t1, t2, and so on, tm, the reflections, which give us the arrow relation. So by the strong exchange property, there is an expression of xm minus 1 that is a subword of s1, s2, and so on sk, because there is an arrow relation from xm minus 1 to xm, which is w, labeled by tm. So xm minus 1 is equal to xm times tm. And now by the deletion property, we can take this expression of xm minus 1, delete something and get a reduced expression. So we get a reduced expression for xm minus 1, which is a subword of our reduced expression for w. So we made one step, and now we just continue inductively, and we get a reduced expression for u. That is a subword of s1, s2, and so on, sk. Now let's prove the other direction, the implication from right to left. So assume that u has a reduced expression which is a subword of s1, s2, and so on, sk. Then, by lemma, there is an element v which is br greater than u, and such that v has a reduced expression which is a subword of our s1, s2, and so on, sk. And so we can now do the downward induction on the lengths of u, and conclude that v is br smaller than w. So u is br smaller than v is br smaller than w, so u is br smaller than w. And this completes the proof. Now let us list some consequences. First of all, for any pair uv of elements in w, the br interval between u and v, so all elements w in w, which are br greater than u, and br smaller than v, including u and v. So this is finite. In fact, the size of this br interval is at most 2 to the power the lengths of the longer element v. Proof, of course, any word of length k has at most 2 to the power k subwords. That's the whole proof. Corollary 2, mapping w to w inverse is an automorphism of the br order. Of course, reversing a word reverses all subwords. So whenever we can speak about subwords of the word, we can speak about reversed subwords of the reversed word. So this implies corollary 2. Corollary 3, u is smaller than v if and only if every reduced expression for v contains some reduced expression for u as a subword. And corollary 4, u is less than or equal to v in the br order if and only if some reduced expression for v contains some reduced expression for u as a subword. So these are direct consequences from the subword property. And as another corollary, let's formulate something which is usually called the chain property. If u is br smaller than w, then there exists a chain u is equal to x0, which is br smaller than x1, which is br smaller than x2, and so on, br smaller than xk, which is equal to w, such that the length of xi plus 1 is equal to the length of xi plus 1 for all I. So we can go from u to w, increasing the length of an element by 1 step by step, and we will go up the br order. Proof. Applying the subword property and our original lemma, we get x1 as the element v in the lemma, and then we just use the downward induction on the lengths of u. Let us remark that the chain property means exactly that the set w with respect to the br order is a graded poset whose rank function is the length. Some additional problems and questions at the end. Problem question 1. What are the subwords of S1, S2, S3, S2, S1? Problem question 2. Use a subword property to determine the br interval between the identity and w, for w being the element S1, S2, S3, S2, S1. And that's an element of S4. Problem question 3. Use a subword property to determine the br interval between the identity and w, where w is the element S1, S2, S3, S4, which is an element of S5. Problem question 4. Let Sn inside Sn plus 1 be the usual embedding. Show that the restriction of the br order from Sn plus 1 to Sn coincides with the br order on Sn. And problem question 5. Show that each br interval is a graded poset. Thank you very much, and see you next time.